He is not just a victim. He is the only key capable of bringing down an empire built on blood and lies. A soft yellow light bathed the grand hall of the Carter mansion. The clinking of glasses echoed throughout the room, blending with insincere social laughter. Ethan stood silently in a corner, his hand gripping a glass of red wine, eyes fixed on the woman who was the center of the evening, Margaret Carter, his mother. 28 already, Ethan. When will you stop clinging to your mother's skirts? A jest from an uncle echoed, drawing chuckles from nearby guests. Ethan merely smirked, too accustomed to veiled barbs cloaked in friendly tones. But he hadn't expected that tonight. What awaited him wouldn't be just the usual harmless jabs. At exactly 9 p.m., Margaret rose, raising her glass with a smile that radiated gentleness, the same mask she'd worn for years. Thank you all for coming to my birthday party. Her voice was as sweet as honey. Ethan sighed, bracing himself for the usual speech. But then her tone shifted, cold as a blade slicing through the air. By the way, I have an important announcement about my beloved son, Ethan Carter. The room fell silent. Ethan frowned, an uneasy feeling creeping along his spine. Ethan, Margaret turned to him, her eyes gleaming with a look he had never seen before. You are no longer a member of this family. Murmurs began to ripple through the crowd like waves. Ethan froze, barely able to react before Margaret struck the killing blow. My son here has been embezzling from the family funds, disgracing the Carter name to pay off his gambling debts. As of today, he has no right to any assets of this family. Crash. The wine glass slipped from Ethan's hand, shattering on the marble floor. He stared at his mother in disbelief. What the hell are you talking about? Ethan nearly roared. Margaret sighed and signaled to the butler. Immediately, two burly men stepped forward and threw a thick file onto the table. Photos, bank statements, even casino tickets scattered across the surface. Here's the evidence. Are you going to deny it? Her voice dripped with fake pity. Ethan bent down, flipping through the documents. His heart pounded as he saw his personal information, his signatures, but all of it was forged. This can't be. I never. He stepped back, his head spinning. Get him out of here. Margaret waved her hand, like dismissing a stranger. The two bodyguards grabbed Ethan by the arms. He struggled, but it was futile. Mother! Ethan screamed, eyes bloodshot. What are you doing? What kind of scheme is this? Margaret stepped closer, whispering coldly into his ear. This is no longer your home, Ethan. I kept you because you were still useful. Now you're not. Leave, before I make you disappear for good. The mansion door slammed behind him. The night wind cut through his thin jacket like blades. Ethan stood there, alone on the deserted road, without a wallet, without a phone. Everything had been taken. Then a buzz. From his coat pocket. Ethan froze, his backup phone, always hidden for tech-related operations. A cautious habit. A message appeared on the screen. If you want to live, run now. They're coming. NG. Ethan didn't have time to wonder who NG was, because in the distance, a pair of headlights sliced through the darkness. A black SUV sped toward him at breakneck speed. Without thinking, Ethan turned and ran. Tires screeched, the engine roared behind him. The night began to swallow him whole. The engine's roar behind him was like a beast sniffing out its prey. Ethan tore through the darkness, his leather shoes slipping on the wet pavement. He had no time to think, only to run, to survive. The black SUV, a metal monster, closed in within mere meters. Its headlights bathed his back in white light, his shadow trembling across the asphalt. Bang! A gunshot rang out. A bullet grazed Ethan's shoulder, tearing through his coat. Warm blood oozed against the cold night air. Damn it! Ethan turned sharply into a narrow alleyway, heart pounding like a war drum. He knew this area. After all, it was where he had grown up. But for the first time, these familiar streets had turned into a deadly maze. The SUV couldn't follow into the alley, but the sound of hurried footsteps behind told him they were now on foot. They didn't just want to catch him, they wanted to erase him. The phone buzzed again. Right side, iron gate. Enter code 1945. Hurry. NG. Ethan scanned around, his heart skipping when he spotted an old gate almost buried under overgrown vines. He sprinted toward it, bloody fingers trembling as he punched in the code. Click. The gate creaked open just as the footsteps neared. Ethan slipped inside and shut it behind him right as one of the assassins passed by, unaware of his presence. Inside was an abandoned warehouse, shrouded in darkness and the stench of mildew. Ethan dropped down, breathing heavily, sweat and blood trickling down his chin. "NG, who the hell are you?" Ethan muttered, eyes locked on his phone screen. A call came in. Unknown number. Ethan hesitated for a second, then answered. "Long time no see, Ethan." A calm male voice spoke. "Nathan." Ethan could hardly believe his ears. "Where the hell are you? What the hell is going on?" No time to explain over the phone. Nathan Gray, his best friend from college, who had vanished 3 years ago without a trace, was now back just when Ethan was about to be killed. "Listen to me. Behind the warehouse, there's a motorbike. The key is under the seat. Take it and get to the address I'll send." "What the hell are you doing? Why did my mother?" "Ethan, you're being hunted. If you want to live, shut up and do what I say." Nathan's voice turned sharp, then the line cut off. A message with an address popped up. Ethan gritted his teeth, stood up, and slipped through to the back of the warehouse. Just as Nathan said, a dust-covered motorcycle stood still in the dark. He climbed on, found the key, and fired up the engine. It roared like a beast awakened. Just then, a voice shouted behind him. "He's here. No time to think." Ethan twisted the throttle with all his strength. The bike shot out of the warehouse like a black arrow tearing through the night. Behind him, gunshots rang out, one bullet grazing his ear. Ethan crouched low, clutching the handlebars, heart thundering. But as the city lights faded behind, Ethan realized something far more terrifying. The address Nathan had sent wasn't leading to safety. It was guiding him straight into an abandoned industrial zone, a place long known as the territory of those who never let outsiders leave whole. "Nathan, what the hell are you dragging me into?" Ethan muttered, but he had no choice but to keep going. The phone rang again. This time, it was Lily. Ethan nearly slammed the brakes in shock. He hesitated, then answered. "Big brother." His sister's voice, faint and choked. "Don't trust anyone." "Nathan." Beep, beep. The call cut out. Ethan froze. "Don't trust anyone." "Nathan." A chill ran down his spine. Now, he didn't know who was friend, who was foe. His mother had betrayed him. His best friend suddenly reappeared, and now his sister. Was that a heartfelt warning, or just another part of the play? Up ahead, the rusted gate of the industrial zone opened like the jaws of a monster, waiting to devour its prey. Ethan tightened his grip on the handlebars, his gaze cold as ice. If this was a trap, he would turn it into a reverse trap. The motorbike screamed as it skidded across the concrete of the deserted zone. Ethan cut the engine, removed his helmet, eyes sharp as he scanned his surroundings. The entire area was cloaked in mist, rusted steel structures like giant skeletons under the pale moonlight. The phone buzzed again. A message from Nathan. "Warehouse number 7. Find the steel chest under the floor. You'll understand everything." Ethan squinted at the row of decrepit warehouses in the distance, his heart still storming from Lily's call. Her warning was like a thorn lodged in his chest. Don't trust anyone. But now, there was no turning back. If he wanted to survive, he had to know the truth. Ethan crept through the decaying metal sheets, silent as a ghost. Instinct told him every shadow could hide a threat. And he was right. Just as his hand touched the door to warehouse number 7, a soft click sounded. A trap. Ethan dove to the side just in time as a metal dart shot from a slot in the door, embedding itself into the wall behind him. He panted, cold sweat pouring down. "Welcome back, Ethan." A strange voice echoed behind him. Ethan spun around, facing a man in a black suit, sharp features, and eyes like razors. "Who the hell are you?" Ethan backed away, eyes scanning for escape routes. "Doesn't matter. I'm just the keeper of your father's legacy." Bullets ripped into the doorframe, shards of concrete flying. Nathan gritted his teeth and dropped 2 more enemies, but they kept coming. Then a voice echoed through the PA system, eerily familiar. "Dearest Ethan, I knew you'd come." Ethan froze. Margaret's voice. "You think you can steal data so easily? This was a trap, my son. And you walked right into the lion's jaws." 95%. 98%. Ethan clenched his jaw, his eyes burning with fury. "Let's see who bites who, mother." 100%. Transfer complete. Ethan yanked out the USB and dashed from the room just as a grenade rolled inside. Boom. The explosion hurled them back through the corridor. Ethan's ears rang, blood dripping from his temple. He scrambled up and hauled Nathan to his feet. Emergency exit. Left side, Nathan shouted, voice distorted by the shock. They dove into a narrow tunnel, footsteps thundering behind them. But as they reached the final door, a silhouette blocked their path. Lily. She stood still, clad in black tactical gear, gun in hand, her gaze cold and unreadable. I'm sorry, brother. Her voice cracked. But I can't go against Mother. Ethan froze, heart clenching. Lily, you. Bang. A gunshot. The sound of dripping water. The creak of metal. The sharp tang of blood and rust mingled with chemicals, thick enough to suffocate. Ethan jolted awake once again, this time strapped to a steel chair in an interrogation room buried deep underground. No windows. No exits. Just a harsh ceiling lamp shining directly into his face. His wrists and ankles were bound with titanium cuffs. Dried blood crusted around the wounds. Nearby, Lily stood with her back to him, eyes fixed on a monitor playing a video Ethan had never seen before. A man being tortured. His father, Charles Carter. Ethan strained against his cuffs, veins bulging, eyes blazing red. Turn it off, he screamed. Lily, stop it. Lily turned, her eyes hollow. You have to watch. You need to know who your father really was. The door creaked open. Margaret walked in, calm as if she'd just left an afternoon tea. A wine glass in hand, she placed it on the stainless steel table and sat across from Ethan. My dear son, finally awake. Ethan glared at her, not with mere anger anymore. What burned in his eyes was something more dangerous, the stillness before the storm. Why? Margaret tilted her head, almost amused. Because I gave birth to a mistake. Charles believed you could inherit his empire. But he was weak. He wanted to back out, to destroy everything he built. And my dear, traitors always have to die. Ethan's body trembled with rage, but the cuffs held him like a chained beast. You killed him. Margaret narrowed her eyes. No, he took his own life. But I made sure he had no way out. She sipped her wine delicately, just like you now. Ethan closed his eyes. Silence fell for a long, eerie second. So what now? You're going to kill me? Wipe me off the map. Margaret chuckled. Oh no, sweetheart. You're going to work for me. She placed a tablet on the table. The screen displayed Ethan's secret offshore account, filled with over $20 million. He'd believed it had been frozen. You've proven yourself more capable than I thought. Escaped traps, survived assassins, even hacked into the central server. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. But you lack one thing, power. And me? I lack one thing, time. Ethan looked at her, his rage giving way to suspicion. You're choosing me as your successor? No, darling. I'm choosing you as my scapegoat. Boom. The door burst open. Two men in dark suits entered and hauled Ethan up. Margaret stepped close, whispering near his ear. You're going to Zurich. There, you'll sign every money laundering transaction in my name. If it all goes smoothly, I let you live. If not, she caressed his neck with icy fingers. Even your corpse will have value. 3 hours later, on the helicopter, Ethan sat bound, a cloth bag over his head, the roar of the rotors thundering around him. He couldn't see, couldn't move, only hear the wind howling like a warning. But there was one thing Margaret didn't count on. Nathan was still alive, and he was tracking the helicopter via a GPS chip he had hidden inside Ethan's shoe. Cut to underground network safe house. Nathan sat in a pitch-black room, his fingers dancing over a keyboard. Beside him, a woman, Eleanor, Ethan's grandmother, long believed to be dead. She lit a cigarette, the flame from her Zippo briefly illuminating sharp, weary eyes. Begin, she said softly. Time to flip the board. Ethan and Eleanor moved through a hidden tunnel under the enemy base. The walls of bare concrete exhaled the breath of death itself. On Ethan's finger, a silver ring glinted, the key to unlocking the final gate. Up ahead. Eleanor whispered, pointing toward a massive steel door engraved with the symbol of a serpent entwined with a sword. This was the chamber of the dead list, the vault of every secret, every name, every crime of the organization buried over 3 decades. Ethan approached, inserted the ring into a narrow slit. Click. The door groaned open, revealing a stark white room filled with drives, screens, and servers. But standing inside, waiting for them, Margaret and Lily. Where did you think Grandma was taking you? Margaret sneered, gun aimed at Eleanor's heart. Lily stepped forward, eyes full of sorrow and confusion. Ethan, I'm sorry. Her voice cracked, but I couldn't fight her. Ethan clenched his fists, eyes cold as steel. So it was all a game? Even you, Grandma? Eleanor gave a pained smile. No, Ethan. I truly wanted you to end this. But Margaret always stays one step ahead. Margaret approached, voice smooth as poison. Sweetheart, don't be foolish. Hand over the USB and the ring. Together, we can rule this world. Ethan chuckled bitterly, pulling the USB from his pocket and raising it high. You think I'm that easy to manipulate? Margaret's smile faded. Her eyes turned sharp. You don't have a choice. Ethan pressed a hidden button on his watch. A soft beep echoed in the air. Don't I? Behind him, the massive screen flickered to life, flashing a single line. Data uploaded, public server. Margaret's face turned white. No, that's not possible. Ethan's smile was calm, ruthless. The moment Grandma opened this vault, every bit of data was sent to the world. Every secret, every crime, the whole damn empire, exposed. Lily collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. You planned this, all along. Margaret screamed, raising her gun. Bang! But the shot didn't come from her. Eleanor stood firm, her pistol still smoking. Margaret collapsed in a pool of blood, red against the pristine white floor. Lily wept, crouching beside her mother's body. Her voice trembled with grief and hatred. You think it's over? You think Project Legacy ends here? It's immortal. Ethan stepped forward, eyes full of weary defiance. No, Lily. When light shines on the dark, even empires can crumble. Lily laughed bitterly, then in one swift motion, drew a hidden gun. Bang! Ethan flinched, but the bullet didn't strike him. Lily fell beside her mother. One shot, and into it all. The room fell silent. 6 months later, the headline splashed across every major outlet. Project Legacy criminal empire exposed. Hundreds of politicians and CEOs arrested. Anonymous hero behind global leak still unknown. No one knew the face of the hero. Ethan vanished, along with Eleanor. In a quiet seaside cafe, Eleanor sipped tea, eyes distant, watching the waves crash gently. Ethan stood by the window, face half lit by sunlight. Do you regret it? Eleanor asked softly. Ethan shook his head, but his smile was tinged with something darker. No, but I understand now. Sometimes, freedom is just a quiet room, where no one's left to betray you. Eleanor nodded, her gaze heavy with old sorrow. On the table, a burner phone vibrated silently. A message from an unknown number. The new game begins soon, Ethan Carter. Don't fall asleep in peace. PL. Ethan stared at the screen, eyes darkening. He knew. The darkness never truly disappears. It only waits for the perfect moment to return.